It is Monday, February 18th, 2020. The time is 5:15 p.m. Joanne, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Ernst?
Here. Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Here.
Commissioner Wright?
Here. Thank you, Joanne. There is one change to the agenda. Well, we're going to have two changes to the agenda. The approval of payroll and invoices will be after public requests. And we are going to defer the banking RFP to the first meeting in March 2020. Commissioners, are there any other changes? No? Okay. We now come to our public request time. If you would please step to the podium, you may give your name and your address. God bless you. And we'd like to hear from you. Hi, Jim.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Jim Miller, 480 East Boca, Raton Road, and Boca. And actually, I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Friends of Gumbo Limbo. And first, I'd like to make sure that everybody has had a chance to know that we've got a new executive director. He's John Holloway, sitting right here in the front row. He's an executive director that we at Friends finally picked up after looking a long time. We stole him from a nature center up in North Carolina. He joined us on January 6th. And has very actively gotten involved with both the city and with the district, had some meetings involving, including with Brianne, with the district, and with the city, so he's picked up very, very quickly. On your agenda, tonight you're obviously going to be talking about a subject that's very close to us, which is the tower at Gumbo Limbo. It's one that we put together an MOU with you back in July of last year, in which we said we would fund $500,000 in order to make sure that the tower could be built so that it was ADA compliant. As a result of the generosity of the Kozlowski and Jones family in memory of their son Jacob, and in fact, who joined us here this evening for part of the meeting. Under that MOU, Friends has already contributed $250,000 when we signed the agreement, with the condition that we would contribute the other $250,000 when the tower was completed. At the time the MOU was done, I'm sure everybody thought that the project would move along very, very quickly. Unfortunately, that turned out not to be the case. In November, the city let us know that there were some issues that they were dealing with, and the cost was increasing from what they thought was going to be $450,000 to something over $600,000. The district, working with us, went back and said, well, could we get more detail and understand this better? We didn't hear too much until this past month, and now we heard from the city again that they've gone back and looked and found some other issues, and now their cost estimate is like more like $1 million or more to build the facility. At a meeting on February 6th with Brian and John representing the district and Friends with the city, that's where the $1 million came out. And they also told us that they thought that if we use the lift mechanism that we've been talking about, that we'd be facing operating costs perhaps of over $100,000. All these things have happened fairly quickly, and we don't have a lot of detail. In accordance with the MOU, if we look at it, the installation of the project is supposed to begin in 6 months, and if it didn't begin in 6 months, then actually you're supposed to be returning $250,000 to us. That is not what we're interested in doing. That date would have been, or has been, January 25th. The Board of Trustees of Friends reviewed the subject at our February meeting, our board meeting on February 12th. And after a lot of discussion, the board approved a resolution. I'll just read it for you. In conjunction with the generosity of the Kozlowski family in honor of their son Jacob, Friends has raised $500,000, and we in fact have raised that, for rebuilding the tower in compliance with ADA requirements. We understand from the city of Boca that the new estimate for all costs exceeds the original estimate. Friends requests a joint study to more accurately define the scope and costs of the project, and requests an extension of the MOU dated July 25th by 60 days. In other words, 60 more days to see if we work our way out and see what we can do with this thing. Friends stands ready to pursue rebuilding the tower by donating the $500,000, and will take back to the board information, what may be needed in order to complete the tower. So that was a resolution that was passed in February, at the February 12th meeting. I'd like to add that Friends also understands from the city that they've suggested that maybe we could consider an alternative. There is to the funicular, there's an incline ramp that was built at Pinellas Park over in the west side of Florida. There's an incline ramp rather than a mechanical device. It looks like it's working very well, and together with the donors, Friends is prepared to take that on and include that in a study of what the alternatives might be. "60 days is not a very long time. We know detailed design and cost estimates can't be done that quickly, but we believe it should be enough time to try and figure out what we can do. Get some information together, look at the alternatives, and come up with a game plan." With that, then, I think the three parties can take a look at it, we can figure out what the next steps should be. So we do formally propose to you that we extend the present MOU by 60 days and put together some plans to figure out what we can do with it. I'm constantly amazed at how many people remember the tower, look for it. I'm a guide over there, and almost every day that I'm doing that, somebody asks me, "When's the tower coming back?" Gordon Gilbert made a presentation a couple of weeks ago in celebration of the 35th anniversary of Gumbo Limbo. At the end of his presentation, the first question was, "When's the tower coming back?" So I think there's a lot of anxious people waiting to see what's going to happen. We are anxious, we'd like to make it happen. And I think with collectively working together, we can figure out how to make it happen. We can, in fact, build the tower. Okay.
Thank you, Jim, and as of right now, the tower update is our first agenda item, and we will definitely address that. And welcome, John. Would you please stand up so everyone can see you? And thank you, welcome.
Thanks.
We're glad to have you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, Regina Eklund, 5201 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Boca Raton. I have sent an email to all of the commissioners asking you to please consider making the 11-hole short course a 9-hole that would play like an executive, but with multiple tees. Could also serve the purpose of the short course that has been planned all along for that area. I do think that you have adequate acreage to create an executive course, and it would meet the needs of a lot more players with multiple tees. You could have the seniors and the people who prefer to walk a course be able to play that, as well as the beginning golfers who could play from the forward tees and play it as a short course. I hope you would consider it. I don't think we have anyone from Price Fazio here tonight, but I would welcome the opportunity to also discuss this with them. Thank you.
Thanks, Regina. Wayne just got back this afternoon from South Africa, so we will be bringing that up to him.
Thank you.
And your suggestion, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move up the approval of payroll and invoices. Craig, welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation for the approval of invoices for $191,351.88.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, commissioners.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. And Craig did say aye.
I
Yes, we heard you, thank you. So the motion passes, Joanne, thank you. Thank you, Craig.
you're welcome.
Okay, now our first item of our regular business is the Gumbo Limbo Tower update. And again, we welcome Mr. Holloway from Gumbo Limbo. And also Leanne is here, the manager. Brianne, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I think I can just recap some of the things that Jim talked about. John and I met with Deputy City Manager and city staff that are working on the project, and they've gone over some construction costs with us, which we put into everybody's folders tonight. Those costs are for the funicular, which was the elevator attachment, basically, to make it compliant. We're looking at 1.1 to 1.2 million, and they average $100,000 to $150,000 a year in O&M costs. So those obviously exceed the budget that we had planned on. There are alternatives, like Jim had mentioned, and we do want to just ask for a motion tonight to get a 60-day extension on our MOU with the Friends, so John and I can continue to flesh out some of those alternatives, and John's been working with the Kozowski family on as far as making sure their needs are met as well. So we just need a motion tonight to extend the agreement.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we extend the MOU that we have with Gumbo Limbo for another 60 days.
Second.
That was Mr. Rollins and Mr. Engel. Is there any discussion?
Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Craig is also aye. Motion passes. Thank you. And I made a blonde moment. I gotta stop dyeing my hair. Okay, we're gonna move back a little bit to the approval of minutes for the previous board meeting of January 27th, which was the joint meeting. It's on page 1 of your agenda packet. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Craig also is an aye. Motion passes, Joanne. Our next item is the regular meeting held February 3rd, and this was a regular district meeting, not a joint meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, thank you. And that was Mrs. Wright with the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Craig was also an aye, so it was unanimous. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Melissa Dawson, our facilities manager, is going to give us our options about the previous discussion we've had about the power lines on the golf course. And Melissa, she's fast. No, we're not going to take any action tonight. We're going to hear what Melissa's options are.
Thank you. Commissioners, last meeting, it was the direction from the board to move forward with investigating burying the power lines at Boca National. So in order to, I have a meeting set up tomorrow afternoon. It was in the morning, but he's called late today and asked me if I could readjust it, so it's 2 o'clock tomorrow now, a meeting with FPL on site. And so in your packet on page 11, we have the options. 3 different options. What it is these are all the areas that the power lines run along the golf course, and I want to make sure that we communicated properly to make sure that we're on the same page on what you wanted investigated. So option 1 is burying the power lines from 95 all the way to the railroad tracks. You'll see it comes up. It also crosses over Clintmore right there and goes on down to the railroad tracks. As you can see on here and on there, that's 3,317 feet. The estimate from FPL, just a rough estimate, is $200 to $300 per square foot. So your estimate is essentially $1 million if you want to move that route. What we need to do is a 10% deposit on that. That would give us the exact estimate. And then if we move forward with the project, that deposit would be credited towards the project itself. If we did not move forward with it, we would lose that deposit. I'm concerned that also the price of that could go up higher than the 300 simply because of the way it crosses Clintmore Road there. It would depend on direction, they use directional drilling, etc. So, or Jeffrey Street. Option number 2 is from the corner of, this is the section, this is Northwest 2nd Avenue, this is Jeffrey Street, is to take it from the corner of Northwest 2nd Avenue and Jeffrey Street all the way to the railroad tracks. And that is 1,002 feet. So approximately $300,600. Again, 10% would be your deposit. It would go towards the project if you did that work. And if you did not, you would lose it. The one concern here it's not really a concern of ours because if her plants were in the easement, then they're in the easement. But I would tell you that this runs right along some hedges that this Mrs. Reagan has planted here. And they would probably disturb those hedges and could kill those hedges. She has her house on the market right now as well, so hopefully they would not be in the easement, but I can tell you as close as it runs there, those hedges would definitely be disturbed during that process. And then your third option is to go 708 feet
which is from the easternmost side of Mrs. Reagan's last driveway all the way to the railroad tracks. And that takes you across all of the golf course, as you can see. And that is 708 feet, so the estimate on the 300 would be $212,400. Again, we would need 10% deposit in order to get an exact estimate of that. So those are your options on the power lines, and I guess I'm just tomorrow when I meet with FPL, if this is something you're interested in doing, I want to be able to tell him exactly what the scope is that you guys are requesting an exact quote for.
Per Wayne's suggestion, since we don't know what is going to happen, especially on the west side, and we don't know how deep these lines have to go or how shallow these lines have to go so that they don't interfere with anything that is thought about for the construction, he has said that we should defer any kind of decision until we have some more information from him.
Sure, Cole, just doing what you asked me to do last time, so there's the options we have, so. So is that where, so,
Yeah, I just have one question. In the outside chance that the road, Clintmore Jeffries, is extended across our property, how would it impact those lines that are buried? Where are they in relationship to that easement that would exist there today for the Jeffrey extension?
well, this is Jeffrey Street right here, so they extended it directly, because that's the turnaround area, but this is Jeffrey Street right here, so it comes right along parallels with the road. I don't know if it's exactly on it, Bob, I don't know. I meet Alec there with Alec tomorrow, so I told Brienne when she mentioned to me this early, when I meet with Alec tomorrow, I can ask him those ideas of how deep do they have to be buried, or where is the exact easement and all of that.
Yeah, I just want to be sure, I don't know how wide, if they put the road through there, if it were to happen, what kind of easement would be on either side of that right of way, and what that would mean. I wouldn't want to do this exactly in that spot if there was a potential for this work being disturbed later on.
Right.
So that's just something to check on, I guess, Melissa.
Yeah, I had told Brienne that we'll ask Alec about that tomorrow when we meet with him, just to confirm that. We'll also ask him if there's a deadline on the decision. Is this a decision that has to be made while they're out in the area doing work at the same price? Or is it something that could go up in price if they've left the area and are no longer working in the area? I mean, I'm sure they can always do it. I don't know if there's an adjustment in the price, whether they have to, remobilize to go into that area or not. So I'll ask you both of those questions.
Anyone else have any questions for Melissa?
The only other thing I'd like to bring up momentarily on the golf course that I'd like you to see is, we put a hold on FPL planting plants along, from the 95 bridge up to Southwest 3rd Terrace. And this is a picture of the fence along that area, and that's why they were going to plant hedges there to mitigate this so that it did not look like this for the neighborhood. I did get a quote, as we're holding on that, if you're interested, for, I think it was $4,500 was the quote. Our team that is now out there maintaining the field for us and mowing it can come in and take out the fences and remove the stumps that has grown up through it and level that out, and then can just mow it and keep it maintained for us at the same price. I didn't know that was something the board wanted to consider, because it's quite an eyesore right now.
And there's a future sidewalk, that's the reason we don't want to do the planting now. You want to touch on
Yeah, on the, I'm sorry. The reason why last meeting you guys asked for us to delay the planting, and the reason, and there was a good reason. The reason why is because, as Brienne mentioned, on page 15, you'll see a summary of the projects I sent you when I met with FDOT on site. And right now, FDOT is working on a project that is 80 days that runs from the intersection of Northwest 2nd up to Southwest 3rd Terrace, and then it jumps over to the other side of the 95 bridge on the west side of 95 and goes on up to, what is that, Congress right there, military? Congress. That's an 8-foot asphalt walkway that's being put in. The reason why the area from Southwest, I'll go back and show this to you. So right now, what they're doing is they're putting the asphalt 8 feet wide from Northwest 2nd up to this neighborhood, and then on the other side of 95. When they go do the 95 lift, and the renovation's to 95, it's going from, I think it's 15.8 or 15.6 right now. It's gotta go 17.6 or 17.8, and so they'll be lifting the bridge. They'll come back at the same time and make the 8-foot walkway from Southwest Third up to 95, but they were not gonna do that until they worked on the bridge because they don't want to disturb, they think it'll disturb the bridge project, so they just wanna do that all at one time. That will happen either late this summer or this fall is when they project they'll be starting on that project. So that's the concern I have right now is, as you can see, we've got an eyesore out there that would just sit there from now until summer or fall when they went to start that project. So that's why I called our gentleman that's doing the mowing out there for us now and just asked him what he would charge us to come in, take the whole fence down, level the land out, and then just keep it mowed and maintained for us. And then once the project is done, Florida Power will come back in and plant the hedges if we haven't moved on forward with that part of the project yet.
He hasn't given you a quote yet, is that?
$4,500.
For $4,500?
So that's him coming in, taking the fences down, taking the areas where there's big stumps, taking the stumps out, and then leveling the ruts and everything so they can just mow it and maintain it the same way they are the rest of the course.
Grinding the stumps out?
Well, I don't know if he's grinding or taking them out, but he takes them out, he's leveling them, making it so he can maintain it.
Okay.
I wanted it to be as economical as possible, so I told him, tell me what you need to be to be able to properly maintain that, like you are the regular part of the parcel, or the way to the edge of the road right now.
And they are going to bring the sidewalk all the way down to Second Avenue from, after they eventually take it from that one neighborhood?
Second Avenue to Northwest Terrace is happening right now, that's part of the project now.
But then this sidewalk is happening in the fall.
It's the same sidewalk, it's just different sections.
Right, a
Yes.
different side.
So for right now, the 8-foot sidewalk is going from this is Northwest Second, and this is Jeffries. It's going from Northwest Second up to Northwest Third Terrace,
On
And
the
then it's
south side
stopping.
or the north side?
on the south side of the road. And then it's stopping, it's going to the other side of the bridge and picking back up and going to Congress. And then, now we've got it zoomed in. This area right here, I accidentally did perfect, is the area they'll be coming back and doing the sidewalk, the 8-foot sidewalk at the same time they're doing the bridge. And that'll be, in their projections, late summer, early fall. And that's the Florida FDOT that's doing that work.
So whatever plantings we put in now will just be taken up anyway.
Well, that's why last meeting you guys asked us to pause on the plantings, so we didn't do any plantings. So Florida Power has paid for those plants, but the nursery and landscape people are holding on to them for us, and we'll come back and plant them when we're ready for them to. But what I'm saying is, I don't think right now, this is what the neighborhood is looking at, and this is what they would be looking at from right now until late summer or early fall when they start on the big bridge project. So I just got the quote on what it would take to at least take that out and just maintain it so it didn't look like that.
Right, but I'm just confused. In the fall, when they come back to do the bridge project, they're gonna have to remove the plants that we put in right now.
No, we're not putting in plants, there's paused, all we're doing is taking the fence out and mowing the flat ground, keeping the grass mowed.
So we're not putting in any plantings?
That's not my proposal, no.
Okay,
My proposal is simply to take out the fence and then mow it and maintain it all the way to the edge of the road.
but aren't we supposed to have some sort of fence for our property there?
Well, we're gonna put, the plants are gonna go in when they're done with the project completely.
But in the meantime, there will be no fencing.
There won't be
No,
a
we just have to
fence.
fence off the parking lots, which are still, the construction fence is still around, those that were not demoed.
I sense some concern from other commissioners, and I had the same. Regardless of the shape of the fence, the fence doesn't run all the way on the extent of our property on the south side, Melissa, in some form or the other.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I don't know that it's prohibiting anybody from walking onto the property. The thing I'd be concerned about is when you have that fence removed, what that might invite interlopers on ATVs to take a ride through that property, and that would be the only concern I have, and what kind of a liability do we have for those kind of trespassers, should somebody get hurt while they're riding their ATV on our property. That's my concern.
Yeah, I'm also concerned about, again, even though just about anybody can climb over that fence, my it's a visible barrier. And people will always take the path of least resistance. If you take the fence down, my concern is homeless people, kids looking for a place to drink, or adults looking for a place to do other things. And I'm concerned about our liability and potential damage that could be done once the fence is removed. I agree with you, it looks very
Well,
unappetizing.
and we are getting calls from code compliance too on it.
Right, so something has to,
Why don't we just replace the fence with another fence?
you wanna do that, we can.
Well, we can, that's extremely expensive. You're talking about 1,200 feet of fencing.
Well, what about just the sections that are damaged?
It's pretty much the whole fence.
Well, how much of that damage was done by FPL when they came through there?
The fence is damaged because of all the vegetation that had grown into the fence because the fence line was not maintained.
I understand, but you know, that vegetation hasn't caused the fences to be broken over like the one picture that you have there, Melissa, is what I'm saying, is that
Yeah, you can see the fence post is
fence
leaning.
post that's leaning in
No,
this
that's
area.
not, that's a tree.
That's a tree.
Yeah, that's a tree limb from a tree that's grown through it. And,
You know, I know there's parts of it, because I drive by there every other day, and I know how it just looks terrible. I agree that we should do something with it. The question is, what should we do to protect our property and at the same time to clean up that area? And while I don't necessarily want to put a fence down there, especially if there's going to be construction going on, I think we have to seriously consider that as an option now.
If FPL is ready to put the plants out there, you said that they have them already, can we just remove that fence, put the shrubs out there, and then in the summer, if they get damaged, can we not just, by then maybe we'll be somewhere along with the golf course and can put them.
do whatever you guys want to do. I mean, Florida Power is not going to pay. Florida Power's mitigating that was putting the plants in, so they're not going to pay to take the fence down.
If they were
But they're happy to
destroyed,
put the plants in.
if they were destroyed by the Florida Department of Transportation project, would FDOT not mitigate that? If they messed up the plants during their sidewalk project?
Oh, I'm sure they would. They asked us if you're gonna plant them, we prefer you don't, so they can have more room, but as long as we make sure they are on our property line, they'll have to mitigate anything they damaged.
So we could just do the plants now?
Yeah.
That would be our barrier.
We
And
still
then
need to
if they
remove that,
damage
you still have to remove that fence, so
Right.
we'll need approval for that, and then we can just have FPL put the plants out, sure.
Would the plants cover us as far as code compliance?
How tall are they, Melissa? I know I asked
3
before,
feet now.
3 foot?
They had made a commitment to me that if we put them in before, they would all be a minimum of 3 feet. They will do the best they can now, making them all a minimum of 3 feet, but because if somebody came along during that small amount of time, bought some, they would have given them whatever they had on, but they'll do the best they can to make them a minimum of 3 feet tall.
Okay, thank you.
What type of plants are they? I mean, are they dense?
It's cocoa plum.
Are they dense enough to prevent, just people riding through there with their, their dirt bikes or ATVs or?
Yeah, they should be planted close enough together for 800 feet is what they're doing. 800 feet of plants close enough together, minimum height 36 inches is what we were gonna do to basically do a hedge of cocoa plums all the way down it.
I'd certainly support that.
I
Do
think
I
that's,
hear a motion to direct Melissa to have the $4,500 expense for removing the fence and also having FPL replace the plants?
Is the 4,500 just to remove the fence?
4,500 is to remove the plants and to remove the fence, take the stumps out and level it out. So I will obviously ask him for whatever part of that we do not have to do because the plants are being planted that we wouldn't be charged for. Can we do it up to $4,500?
yeah,
Brianne, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you remove the fence, are we gonna be faced with, that you can't install a new fence at a later date? I mean, I think of everything we've worked with in the city, when we remove something, it starts over at ground zero, much like the hotel. Once it's removed, you can't do anything later. So if you do a proposal to remove and replace at the same time, is that better than just removing right now?
I mean, we'd have to go through the permitting process again when we go to put another fence up, but we should still be permitted to put a fence up.
We can check with codes if fencing has changed, I'm sure, I think in the future it would be a split rail fence along the golf course like we have at all of our parks. I don't know what Wayne's plans were, but, we can just double check with them to make sure that that won't be an issue to put a fence up again.
Mr. Chappie, did you have a?
Yeah, sorry to intercede, but there's two things. First of all, there's no irrigation here, so can the plants survive by
They're gonna
themselves?
water them.
That's why they put cocoa plums, because they're native plants, so they should be fine.
The second thing is, he is right about the fence. That fence could be grandfathered. If
Yeah,
that fence is grandfathered, and basically, and it determines on the setback, the sidewalk's gonna come, and there's a right of way, that fence could be in the wrong place. The city could have you move it 3 feet back further than what it was.
oh, absolutely, they could make us remove it, we would have to re-permit it and everything, you can take it out, yes.
But the way the fence is sitting now, it's grandfathered. You could repair it, you could replace part of it, even still within the code to do it, because it's still grandfathered, unless you took it all down.
Yeah.
Then you're not grandfathered anymore.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, that I'll go with what the board wants, that we can't really repair that fence, that fence is, it's unrepairable.
No, but you could repair parts of it. But anyway, I'm just saying, that's all.
When we're finished, do we have to put a fence, when we're finished with the golf course, do we have to put a fence back up there?
I don't know the answer to that.
Would you
I mean,
look into that?
Yes.
That'd be great.
I would think we'd want to put some type of obstacle along that road, since it's a heavily traveled thoroughfare, and it's, I'm sure there's plenty of people trespassing on that and enjoying walking their pets and everything, but I just wouldn't want.
You're either gonna want the fence or hedges up there, is what you're
You
gonna
know,
want.
I think eventually, you know, maybe we should defer this till we hear from Wayne as to what the plans are there, but in the meantime, check on the permitting issue. As Harold said, you know, if we remove that fence and don't repair it, then we may have to move it further back on our course, on our property, away from the roadway, from the position that it's in now. I think that's what Harold was saying, is that fence is grandfathered in its current position, we remove it, then we may have to have a further
We
setback.
might lose land.
So I think we ought to check that out before we make a decision.
Yeah, I think that part,
What was that, Steve?
if I'm getting sick, I'm coming back after you. I think we really, in lieu of a motion, I think we need to just instruct Melissa to get the proper information.
Yes, if you would do that to find out what our parameters are and what the ramifications would be if we did take the fence down and wanted to put another fence up, and where it would have to go, that would be extremely helpful, and then come back to us on the our March 4th meeting. Okay. Commissioners, are you all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. Mike, do we need a motion for that?
No, I think the consensus direction is to have is
Okay,
fine.
thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Our next item of business is the Ocean Strand discussion. Brianne, would you like to start us off?
Commissioners, a couple meetings ago, Commissioner Ernst mentioned allocating some funds in this current fiscal year to start the process of developing Ocean Strand into a park. So we wanted to revisit that tonight and see if we want to do that, we need to do a budget amendment. So I wanted to get direction tonight on what the board wants to do with the development of Ocean Strand and setting aside money this current fiscal year. We actually have Merv here, so we can take note and we can get a budget amendment ready for next meeting, if that's what everybody wants to do.
Commissioners? Sorry.
I think we should set aside money, but what we need to do is decide how much money we want to set aside in advance of, let's decide what we want to do this year and attach a dollar figure to it.
Craig, did you have something?
Yeah, my only feedback is just to point out that this is a multi-year, multi-step process. And just by allocating a small amount now, I think it's good for, this is one project where both the city and the district can work together to satisfy essentially a needs assessment, the outcome of that, just getting it in place. But as we saw with the wildflower, it takes a long time to really plan these things and completely out. And so I think it's a good time to kind of start and really appoint someone from our board and someone from the city to work together to engage the community to find out what we should do. And it's just a starting point.
Well, based on our budget now, Brianne, do you have a recommendation for, I mean, you've looked at some, you said it was about $100,000 to open it this year.
Yeah, I think at the meeting when Craig spoke about this, Commissioner Ernst, he mentioned 50,000. We could set aside 25 to 50,000 this current fiscal year, we just need to do an amendment to allocate it specifically for Ocean Strand. And from there, I guess we would need to put together some sort of a timeline, or flesh out the details of working with the city on it, however you wanted to go about that, and then start working on that, and look at next year for more.
Bob?
I don't know why we want to do budget amendments when we don't have an idea as to what we're amending it for. And with EDSA having done an assessment of the waterfront master plan, I don't know where that is. And, you know, for us to put money in the budget just to say that we've got money in the budget, to me, doesn't accomplish anything other than maybe a feel-good situation. Because I think if we had a project, had an idea, I think we could amend the budget to accomplish that idea. Would that be correct, Mark? I mean, we don't really necessarily have to put down the money to indicate that we're willing to make a commitment to develop something at Ocean Strand unless you want to establish a line item on the budget just to let the public know that that's what we're doing. But I don't think that's necessary. If we want to do something and we have the funds to do it and we have a plan, then that's when I would suggest we put forth a recommendation or pass an amendment to the budget to accomplish what we plan to do.
Well, that's why I asked if we're going to appropriate money, that we have a specific purpose for that money, whether it's to draw a plan in conjunction with EDSA, whether it's to draw our own plan, whatever it is, there's got to be a purpose for it. I agree that you just can't say, okay, we're putting down 50,000 and we'll decide what we're going to do with it later. We need to show the public that we actually have a purpose for that money and that we're going ahead. If we don't have anything specific in mind right now, maybe a good idea would be to develop something specific and again, attach a budget ceiling to it, appropriate however much it would take to develop a plan for Ocean Strand.
I don't know, I think just like we did with Gumbo Rimbo, we put aside some.
Hold on, Aaron's talking.
We put aside money for Gumbo Limbo to show our commitment to it. And we've been talking about developing Ocean Strand and opening it as a park. And I think setting aside a little bit of money for it shows our commitment to it, and shows the city our commitment to it. And if we have a representative working with them, maybe we can get them to put some money towards it as well. I think it's just setting it aside, knowing that we're dedicated to opening that park for the community, that's all. I mean, if we have the funds there to put a little bit aside, we could just assign it to that, knowing that those funds are gonna go to that park.
So what you're trying to say, and you're doing it very well, is that we want the public to know that we want this for a park and nothing else.
Yeah.
And Craig, you had something to say?
I don't think we need to, whether we allocate money or we don't allocate money, as long as we get started with it, and when we get to the point where we need money, I'm okay with coming back to that, but I want to make sure that we do put it as a priority, and one way of doing it is allocating something. It doesn't mean you'll spend it, but I like, one thing I did like about the city's approach on the golf course is they look for designs and ideas, and they got a lot of them. And it would be good to get ideas. We got to get going on the ideas, and we need to get going on community outreach, and I do think it will take some effort to do that.
I think if we're going to do something like that, then we need to put down some baselines of what we want to, what we're planning to do. And if we're going to establish a committee, if we're going to put forth a joint effort with the city on this, then let's put something in writing and some kind of a plan. I don't think we need to put the money out there or allocate it. I mean, we already do beach renourishment, that's important because we know we're going to have to do some, have to fund that at some point. With Gumbo Limbo, that money is sitting there just the same way as the money that's been allocated for the pumps and piping, which keeps going up. But I'd like to have some type of a plan to what we're going to use the money for, and how it's going to be spent, rather than just putting a line item in our budget saying we want to put this aside just to let the public know of our interest. Because if they come to our meetings, they know of our interest in doing something with that, and we don't have any plans to do anything other than recreational experiences on that property.
Brianne, how much would it cost to put out an RFI?
I mean, to advertise?
Yeah, to advertise for an RFI, to get those people in here to make presentations or get the information from them, whatever it takes.
Well, RFI is just us writing it and putting it out in the paper.
Okay, well, maybe we start there. Because I do want the public to know, this is a very, very important project for me. And I do want the public to know that we're going to do something there. I don't want to hear any more rumors about a hotel going up or somebody supposedly representing us going out and telling people, yeah, that property's available for sale or lease, or you can build a restaurant there. I want to send a message to the public that the Beach and Park District is only interested in developing the property for recreational purposes as a park. So, yeah, we have to do something, but, you know, just to say, okay, here's X dollars to do it, without attaching something to those X dollars, I think kind of defeats the purpose.
Commissioners, what about having a charrette and having the public's input as to what they would like to see there? I know we have done this in the past, but maybe before some of you were on this board. We put some money toward EDSA, and they came back with some very grand ideas. But just to have something recreational and public, we might get some ideas from the public rather than just from a contractor who has an idea of what the community needs. I think our community knows more about what it needs than a contractor would. Would you like to set aside a meeting for that?
Sure.
How about we do this first? How about if Craig's suggestion is going to get any traction, we need to talk to the other party to see if they're even interested in participating in this, and not so that they're not invited to a charrette as our partner without having first had an opportunity to weigh in on that idea.
Right,
Great idea.
So
Brian?
okay. I can talk to the city.
I think that's the first step, and then, because they may have some other ideas, because they've been working on this waterfront plan longer than we have. And I'd like to get, if we're going to have some joint ideas, and perhaps staff to staff should get something going to see if that's something that's plausible.
You always have good ideas.
Sometime. My wife didn't think so.
Craig? You still there? I think we lost him. Craig? Mike, do we need a motion for that?
What, to
To
reach
have
out to the
staff-
city? I don't think you need to,
Okay.
it's basically asking fact-finding and getting information, report back to the board.
Commissioners, are you all in agreement to have Brianne reach out?
He's back.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig, do you have any, we're going to have Brianne reach out to city staff to get an idea of what they might want for that property, and then we can go to the public after that.
I am all for it, that's fine.
Okay, good. Okay, anything else on this subject? Okay, we're up to, since we've already done approval of payroll and invoices. We're up to reports and discussions. Executive Director Harms, please.
Not too much tonight. I'm working on the RFP for the project manager. We should have that for the next meeting. Just wanted to get Wayne to give some input on some of the scope, and he's back today. I talked to him this afternoon. I wanted to let everybody know the city has gone out for an RFP for the design of phase 2 of the Hornley, so I requested some documents on that so we can have an idea of what they're expecting to design there. The pipes and pumping project has not gone out to bid. We're still waiting on an update for that one. And then you guys asked about the sunscreen dispensers that are going to be installed at Sugar Sand and the Swim and Racket Center. The family and the RDK Foundation are working on an event permit to do a ribbon cutting for those on February 28th by the carousel. That has not been finalized, so that's kind of just a tentative date. February 28th at 2 p.m. was what they were hoping for. Just waiting for the city to process that event permit.
That's okay.
That's everything.
Okay. Mike, welcome. Thank you for coming in Jacob and Sam's place. We appreciate it.
Good to see everyone again. Just wanted to, you all have a copy of it in your packet. Our office did send a request to the Florida Attorney General asking to interpret the charter of the district relating to its authority to convey, lease property. We'll let you know, of course, when we hear back. Could take some time, given that it is going to Tallahassee. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll just update you when we hear back.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for our council? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's right, you're not feeling well, right? Do you have any comments or any reports?
No,
Good. Okay.
don't get the flu.
Okay.
Yeah,
Steve?
don't give me the flu. I just want to reiterate something that I mentioned in previous conversation. If you hear a story or a rumor or anything like that about anyone going around and talking to people about representing the Beach and Park District or having the permission of the Beach and Park District to represent regarding any building project or any sale or lease of the property that we're responsible for, they don't have it. All right, so hopefully I'll put to rest any rumors. There is nobody that is authorized to represent us in any way, shape, manner, or form regarding the sale, lease, or other conveyance of any property or the development thereof.
So there. No, the only thing I want to mention is that the local youth soccer organizations having their year-end tournament at our park, and it's a festival in addition to a tournament. So if you want to see kids enjoying themselves both on the fields and in the concession area where there's also rides and slides and things of that nature, my grandkids would be all over that. But it's Saturday, February the 29th, and it'll be a fun time for everybody that's out there, and the public is quite welcome to join in the festivities.
And there are free hot dogs, sodas, and chips, but we do ask for donations to Top Soccer. So we'll have some of our buddies and some of our players out there representing us at the hot dog stand. So yes, it's a great festival time, and I highly recommend it too. Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I did speak to one of the people who use the swim area, and she was concerned about people who use the splash pad out here in the playground using the pool free of charge, because the splash pad and the playground, of course, are free of charge. So Melissa and Brianne are working on some way to make sure that that isn't going to be happening. It's for legal and financial ramifications. So. And what about the needs assessment? Do you want to report on that?
Sure, we got a draft of the needs assessment report, which we're going through and cleaning it up. So we'll have another meeting in March with the consultant and the firm that did the survey, ETC, to go over that report and fine tune it a little bit.
All right, any future agenda items that you'd like? Huh? Craig? Oh, I'm sorry, Craig, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, and I apologize. The last time when you asked me a question, I got a damn grid phone call at the same exact time, and I couldn't switch over or get rid of it easily. But, I did have one comment on the FDNL, thing, and I realize there's more work to be done, and we're gonna confirm some times on it. But, I guess I wanna highlight, to the community that I think it is a very, it's a great opportunity to bury lines, but I'm not sure that the district should, be burdened with all of the costs. There are several neighborhoods there, including Boca, who get the benefit of those lines. And so I think it's a combination of the city and the community have to decide if they want those lines buried. And the total cost to the district, to anyone, is $1.3 million. And I do not expect that the district would pay $1.3 million because that certainly is well above anything we ever anticipated on. It wasn't even contemplated in this project. But I do think it is an opportunity that the community should weigh in on, they should contribute on, as well as the city. And I certainly, as with the district, I think we should be supportive of whatever the community wants to do, but everyone needs to participate in it. It's not just for the district to pony up all these costs. But I realize it's still got more work to be done on it.
Craig is saying that not only should the district look into this, burying the lines for FPL, but also the community and the city should share in the cost if that's what the community would like.
Right, but isn't it our property,
The east side is.
the east side? So whatever's on our property would be our responsibility to bury.
Craig, what Aaron is saying is that the east side would be our responsibility, but the west side would be community involvement.
I don't know what's wrong with asking the Boca community to contribute towards it. I certainly think they have a master homeowners association, and I can tell you in our community, when it's just because it's not adjacent to our property, does not mean that they cannot contribute towards it. So it's something that should be evaluated in the community. Of course, we are the one who would be the contracting party, but it doesn't mean that we have to pay for the whole thing. That's our choice if we choose to do that. But I really think there's other communities, the rest of those neighbors, both the condo building and the homeowners, need to consider contributing towards it, and either they're all in or they're not.
So how would you propose that we go about exploring this, Craig?
Well, I think one way of doing it is going back to the city and to the homeowners board and asking them if they want these lines buried. And if they want the lines buried, are they willing to contribute to those lines being buried or not? The homeowners board need to make their own, give us that communication of what they will do. And then after we give indication if they want it buried or not, we will come back to them with, are we going to do a cost sharing or not? What will we do? But I think the city really is the first starting point because it is an infrastructure upgrade for the community. I think it's a good thing to do, and it's certainly what we don't. You're just seeing the power lines that FDNL is putting up. I can assure you, optic cables from Comcast and from AT&T will all go up next. So it really is a good thing if you bury it, but there is a cost to it, and I don't think we should really be burdened with the whole cost. But we have to find out what the community wants. This is just an opportunity for everyone. If the community comes back and says, nope, we don't care about the power lines, and we don't want to contribute anything to the power lines, fine. Then I say for the golf course over there on our section from the residential house to the railroad track, it makes a lot of sense to bury those lines. And that from just the playability and everything else should be done at a minimum.
So you say you will go to the residents in the area?
Well, Harold Chappie is the president of the overall association there, East Malcolm Boca, I think he's an opportunity to take it back to them. Do they want it? They can do a survey and find out whether they want it. They have to go through their own HOA board and find out if they will contribute.
We could send a letter. Craig, we could send a letter to the HOA groups from the district.
I think it's the right thing to do, is to ask them, one, if they want them buried, give them the option, and two, are they willing to contribute towards it, per home fee.
Commissioners, are you good with that?
I will tell you right away, if they don't want to do it, then fine, that's what they're borrowing, but. The city also is an entity that should be contributing whether they want it or not. It's a direct benefit to the entire community.
Okay. Brianne will reach out to the city, and I'm checking with the other commissioners, Craig.
Yeah, I couldn't really hear Bob too much on that conversation, but,
Well, I think that what we, just following your suggestion, your lead, Brian, I'm committed to the installation of the power lines underground on the east side of our course. If the others want to join in at the same time, then maybe you could just send a letter to the community and to the city and ask them if they want to participate. Otherwise, we'll just move forward on our own.
Steve, are you good with that? Okay. Okay.
could you repeat that?
Yeah, Bob said that he's committed to doing the east side, and then we'll reach out, I'll talk to the city and I'll send a letter to the HOAs. And if they want to contribute, then they can help out with the other portion that goes up on the west side.
I'm on board, I agree.
Okay.
Do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, thanks for weighing in.
Okay.
Any other future agenda items?
The banking and the RFP
Banking RFP, okay.
and the project manager.
Move to adjourn.
I need a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Craig.
Bye, Craig.